My name is John Clinton Robbins. I was born here in Longview, Texas in 1935. I won't tell you my age. And our home was at 820 Stuckey Drive. We had a wonderful childhood there. My mother always had open house for all the neighborhood kids, no matter how dirty, how muddy. She would feed half of them. And as I was mentioning, some of the other neighbors wouldn't let us come in their house. In fact, none of them would let us come in their house and play. But our house was always open, and it was called Nugget Hill. Daddy always said it's important to build a house where you're in a good neighborhood where you'll have good neighbors and good people for your children to grow up around. And that was certainly true. And beside the house, we had 816 Stuckey Drive. That's where my grandparents moved down from New Mexico, and they lived there. So we had a grandmother named Jamie lived right next door. She lived to be 100 years old. She was born 1 year after the Civil War. We were very fond of her. She was a lovely grandmother, a wonderful person. She was first cousins of Charles Russell, the famous cowboy artist. And why she ever came to Texas back in the horse and buggy days, I don't know, but she was just a real inspiration. And I would take Sunday drives, and I would go pick her up, really trying to be nice, but I wanted to drive her car. And I would drive her around every week for a couple of hours. My grandmother was just an inspiration. We would go over and she'd tell us old stories about her cousin, Charles Russell, and about her life. You know, 1 year after the Civil War, she covered a lot of territory. They had no cars, no television, no air conditioning, no central heat. It would be really cold in the mornings when you get up. It'd be cold at night when you get in bed. The sheets would just be ice cold. And then later on, they came up with air conditioning and central heat and television. But about the time they got to television is when I went off to college, so I really wasn't there to enjoy all that very much. But we had a wonderful childhood. It was what you would hope everybody would do. You know, open the house for their kids. And my parents did not have a huge social life because we were it. You know, they had that in the church, and all our friends, our starboarders, and they would always have a pie every day and a lovely meal. And the school was less than a mile away, so we'd ride our bicycles down there to First Ward. That's now the parking lot of Good Shepherd. Longview was a little town about that time, I think, of 10,000. And where you have all the residential areas north now, that was our forest. And we'd go and ride our horses and you know, look for Indians and cowboys and everything else. And it just kind of a Leave It to Beaver type childhood. So our childhood with grandparents right there, and the lot next to it was ours, and we had our 3 horses there. One for me, one for Betty, and one for Dorothy. And we had to feed them, and they would get out about once a week, and they roamed through the neighborhood, and we'd have to go out and chase them. And that was not fun, but it was still part of our childhood. And also in the backyard, that's now the parking lot for Pizza King on Highway 80, was a well-landscaped, beautiful backyard. And when my daddy would go off on the oil business in Mississippi for a month or two, I would get over with my friends, and we dug a series of tunnels and caves, and would cover it up with boards. So every time Daddy would come home, it'd be covered up. And we wound up finally having about 100 feet of tunnels covered up, grass growing over it. Daddy came home, and somebody squealed and said I had that cave network out there and kept my German Shepherd in there. So they tore it all up and they covered it up. Had John Petty, dirt moving contractor, brought in tons of dirt, covered it all up, broke my heart. And you still go over there now, the portion that's not in the parking lot, and see it's still going down. You can see the footprint of my caves. And anyway, getting back to the house, they built the house in about 1930. And Betty was born then, and then it was not a big house, but then as they had me, they added on some rooms in the early 40s. So I'd be 6 years old. And then Dorothy came along, so they added on another room on the east side of the house for Dorothy. So that's kind of the footprint of the house now. And once my parents passed away, and we all the different nephews and nieces would come in there. It was free room and board, free board for everybody. They would all live there. And then finally, we decided, since it was vacant, that we would sell it to Gerald Bratz because he was going to renovate the home. And that's how it was saved. Gerald saved the home. What you see now is a beautifully restored. Makes us so happy to drive by and see it in that shape. And I know my parents would be happy with that. If you'll notice the beautiful pamphlet they put out, they have 3 types of homes: lost, hidden, and saved. And our home was saved, and we're so happy and so proud of going by every Sunday after church and look at it, and just makes you happy. Because you see what happens to homes that are lost. If somebody doesn't come in and restore them, then the history's gone forever. And there are a lot of vacant lots in South Longview where beautiful homes once stood that are now gone. And that's why it's so important for what this Preservation Longview is doing to save homes like the Campbell home. That's a landmark. Let's be proud of for Longview for doing that.